So today I have a special video for you all because I've been on tour for the whole month and still it's not done yet. So I didn't have the time to do a brand new lesson like every week, but still I didn't want to skip this week. And so I thought, what could I actually do? And so I thought I'd put together a full masterclass with my best lessons so far about improvising and learning jazz and learning how to get better with your solos. And I think you're gonna be very, very, very happy with this collection of lessons. And if you go through them all, do every step, and you're gonna see that if you do all these exercises, you're going to improve so much. And from next week, I promise I'm gonna have brand new lessons as usual. So check out this complete masterclass and let me know what you think, and then see you for the next videos. Today I'd like to show you how you can add chromatic notes to your solo. So the idea is that we just need to know one major scale, and then we're gonna use a concept that I'm gonna show you right now to add chromatic notes in between. And so your solo is gonna sound a little more elegant or a little more sophisticated, even just on a one chord vamp. I'm gonna demonstrate it to you. That was just a C major vamp. I just used the C major scale, but you noticed I put some other notes in between. And the concept is really very simple. We just put the notes of the scale on the downbeat, always. So we always have that. We always hear the scale, basically. But we put the chromatic notes in between on the offbeat, always. And so we have like the right notes on the downbeat and the wrong notes on the offbeat. And we're gonna encounter a problem when we do that, and I'll show you why. So if we start like that, and now we have already a chromatism in the scale itself, right? Because between E and F there is already a half step. So what we have to do when we have a half step already, then we are gonna take the note in the scale from above, and we're gonna resolve on our goal note, and it's gonna be like that. So I'm gonna do G to F instead of going, because like that we would have the F sharp on the downbeat. We don't want that. And that's it, basically. We have to do it one more time when we arrive at the C, because between B and C we also have a half step. So it's gonna sound like that, the exercise. That's it. That's the scale I used. When we go backwards, of course, then it's the same thing, but we take the note from the scale from below, of course. So we go That's it. That's the whole concept. That's it. If you can do that, then you already have all you need in order to play chromatically. Then you can start your loop like I did before, and you can try to add these notes. And remember, the downbeat are the right notes, the notes of the scale, and the offbeats are the chromatic notes. Then your solo is gonna sound a little more sophisticated just with that trick. Today I'm gonna show you how to improvise bebop lines over the most common chord progression in jazz music, meaning 2-5-1. Let's use the C major key as an example. And if you learn these 2 arpeggios, really just 2 arpeggios, your lines are going to sound instantly bebop. Because you just need to know how bebop players were and still are thinking about this very common chord progression. So 1 arpeggio is for the 2nd degree, and the other arpeggio is for the 5th degree. And let's start, of course, with the 2. So with the D minor 7 would be the arpeggio. But bebop players don't really play a D minor or a D minor 7. They think about it as a 4th degree, meaning they play an F major 7. That's what they are thinking about. So if you play that, then you actually have very important notes for the D minor 7 9th chord, because you have the 3rd, the minor 3rd, you have the 5th, not that important, but we have it. Then the minor 7, also very important, and then we have the 9th. So we also have a little more color. It's not just a neutral arpeggio. So we have, and Charlie Parker does that the whole time while playing over a normal 2-5-1. And then, already like that, it sounds pretty bebop, right? You might recognize that from Donna Lee, for example. And now, the most important movement for our line comes and for our arpeggio. So we have to go to the 5, right? To the altered 5. Bebop players almost always play the main 5 of the key as an altered chord. Now, I don't want to talk about the altered scale right now. We're just learning about these 2 arpeggios that you can use. And the 2nd arpeggio would be a G augmented. So if we do a G augmented, it's gonna sound like this. And it sounds pretty altered, right? It sounds a little bit outside of the C. Because we have the root, we have the 3rd, and we have the augmented 5th. That is actually a flat 13. So we are playing an altered chord, a chord with an altered tension. And so the idea is to connect these 2 arpeggios and then resolve. And that's very important. When you resolve, you can resolve on the major scale, the C major scale, or of course on the material from the C major 7 arpeggio, right? So basically you can add the C major 7 arpeggio when we resolve. So first, that's the 2, that's the 5, and that's the 1. Right? So when you resolve to the C, you can do whatever you want. You can play the arpeggio, you can play the scale, you can play the scale with the chromatic lines that maybe you learned from my other video. You can check out the description to find it, how to put chromatic lines in your
solo. And so your focus, but your focus should be on the 2 and the 5, right? So you should be able to play a major, an F major 7 arpeggio that goes to a G augmented chord and resolve to a note from the C major scale. Better if it's a note from the chord, from the triad, or from the major 7 chord of C, of course. So let me give you a couple of examples. And voila, as you can see, it's already very bebop sounding, and it's actually very simple to do. You have the arpeggio over the 4th degree, or from the 4th degree, the F major, and you have a G augmented arpeggio, and you resolve it to a note from the C major scale, or even better, to a note from the C major arpeggio. That's it. That's already the beginning to sound bebop over a 2-5-1 progression.
In today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to actually use the alter scale and how to blend it into your solos or into your compositions to create more tension and more interesting moments. But first, I'd like to explain what an altered scale is and how it's built. So if you already know that, you can skip to the next chapter of this lesson. But if you're not so secure about it or you're a little confused, then listen to this explanation because I'm gonna try to make it as clear as possible. So, an altered scale is basically a mode from the melodic minor world. So what does that mean? That means that it's the 7th degree of the melodic minor scale. So if we are in C melodic minor, meaning this sound, 1, 2, minor 3rd, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then again 1, we play this scale with these exact notes, but from B to B. And this is gonna be a B altered scale, and it's gonna sound like this. So same notes, different starting point, and it sounds very different. And why is that scale so interesting? This scale is interesting because it's actually like you would take a major scale and make every single note flat. So if I would play the B major scale, it would sound like this. Now we make every note flat except the root. And there we have another way to get the altered scale. And so the altered scale is used over dominant chords to play instead of a normal dominant chord, a normal 5, so to speak. Then we can take this chord and make it altered. So that means that all the tensions of the chord, so meaning the 9th becomes a flat 9, the 13 becomes a flat 13, or the 9 becomes a sharp 9, the 4th becomes a sharp 4, and so on. And that means that we have a basic dominant chord, but with altered tensions that come from the altered scale. And when we do that, we create much more tension over this chord. We go further away from the basic key we are in, and that allows us to resolve it then to for example, the 1 to the major chord, the one of this 5 altered that we were playing. So in that case, I'm demonstrating it with a G altered that wants to go to a C major 7. And so in music, it's very, very important to have tension and release. And this is what we do with the altered scale. And that's why I strongly suggest not to practice the altered scale just as a scale, you know, just by itself. For example, G altered scale would be. If we do that, of course, we have a new scale, we can improvise with that scale maybe, but it's difficult to connect it to a musical context. And the most important thing you can do actually with this scale is to practice it around a major scale that you already know. So for example, if we take the 5th position of C major, this is our home, meaning that's where we resolve and where everything gets fine, right? And we have our G dominant that makes the tension to resolve on this. And so what we can do is, let's find the notes of the G altered scale that are close to our goal notes of the C major scale. So that's a very, very important exercise. And I did that before my bachelor studies, right before I started. And that helped me a lot playing solos, creating some tensions on the dominant chords and then resolving it. So you can do that. For example, if we take this scale in the 5th position, then we can find the notes of the altered scale around the major scale, right? So and the altered scale would be. And if you take a look, there are not so many notes in common. There's just the G and the B and the F. That's it. The rest is in between the right notes. So we have this scale, right? That's the C major scale. And that's the altered scale. That's in common, not in common, not in common, in common. Then outside also not in common, not in common, in common, and again 1. So that means that it's actually pretty easy to see the notes, because if those are the goal notes, probably these are the altered scale notes. And you can just resolve. So you are always a half step away from your goal note. And you can start doing. Even without harmonic context, you heard, right? Altered. And no longer altered, right? So how could you practice that? You could actually take a loop pedal and record 1 bar of G altered and 1 bar of C major, where we have to resolve and to land, so to speak. And then you move from the altered scale to the major scale. And to make it musical, try to use motives to do that. So don't just play, okay, the scale, and then resolved. And then, of course, you can do that at the beginning if you don't see the notes right away. But then try to use motives. And I'm gonna show it to you right now with the comping. It starts with the altered scale. and so on. So you get the idea, right? I improvised with some motifs, some very clear musical ideas, and tried to use them in both contexts, right? On the G altered and on the C major. So that's your exercise. Find the notes around the major scale, loop the two chords, and then improvise with it. And when you can do that, then try to apply that to a tune. So you can also, as an exercise, of course, you don't want to play like that always, but you can say, okay, I'm gonna play all dominant chords of this tune as an altered chord and resolve then on their one that comes afterwards. So that could be a good exercise, but of course, don't do it all the time then when you are playing a concert, of course.
Today I'm going to show you how to master jazz chord changes fast. And this lesson is for everyone, not just for guitar players. And stick around because I'm going to give you the tools to finally improvise pretty quickly over fairly difficult chord changes. So if you want to have a tactic to address a difficult piece and already being able after just like 10 minutes to improvise over it, then this is the lesson for you. And I like to use as an example a very famous jazz standard called All the Things You Are, because we can use it as an example to have a process that you can then apply to every tune you like. So the first strategy I would use is the following. I would take the tune and try to group as many chords as possible in one key. And if I cannot group the chords in one key, that means that I have to group maybe them in another key. And so the idea is to have as less keys as possible in the tune, to have an overview of all the different sharps or flats that we need to know, so to speak. So let me show you what I mean. If we take All the Things You Are, then we start with F minor, then we go to B minor, so F minor 7, B minor 7, then E flat 7 to A flat major 7 to D major 7. All these chords so far are in one key. So far it's a pop song. It's in A flat major or in F minor if you want, but let's make it easy and let's just think about major for the sake of simplicity here. So if we analyze it, we have, if we said it's in A flat major, then we have 6, the F is 6, 2, 5, E flat 7, 1, A flat major. That's 4. Everything makes sense in A flat. But now we have something else. Now we have a 2, 5 in minor, or just a 5 altered in many cases, to go to C major. So here we cannot stay in the original key. So we need to change our mindset and change the key. So we can say, all right, we are going to C. So we are doing a 5 and a 1 to C major. So that means that we can group this first part and we say that's A flat, and then we can group this part and we have 5 and 1 in the new key, C major. Now it gets interesting. The same chords come once again, but now they are in E flat. So this C that was major becomes minor, and this is again the 6, but of the next key. So we have C to F minor to B7 to E flat major to A flat major. This is the same thing in another key, in E flat, because we have 6, 2, 5, 1, 4 again. So you see, we have just 3 keys. It's way easier right now because we have A flat major, C major, E flat major. And now we have, again, we ignore the 2, we do just a 5. So D7 to G, 5 to 1 in the new key, in G. So we had A flat as a key, we had C as a key, then we had E flat, and then we have now G as a key. That's it. And now in the bridge, it's easy because we stay in G, because we have 2, A minor 7, 5 of G, so D7, and 1. And now, again, new key, because F sharp doesn't make sense in G major. It should be half diminished, but it's minor. So we have a 2, 5, 1 in E major. So again, one more new key. So to summarize so far, we said we have A flat, then we have C, then we have E flat, then we have G. Then we stay in G for the bridge, and still in the bridge we go to E, and now we go back to the original key. We do a 5 of the F, so this one is kind of on its own. We're going to talk about it later. And then we go back. We have the same exact thing as before, as the beginning. So we are back in A flat. We have 6, 2, 5, 1, 4. And now the most difficult part of the song starts, because we have a 4 minor, then we go to 3, still in A flat, so we can keep it in A flat. Then we have a B diminished, we're going to talk about that also later. Then we have still in A flat, a 2, then a 5, and 1. And that's it. And then again our C to go back. As you see, we actually have how many? 5 keys? 6 keys? It's not easy, but it's way easier than thinking about every single chord, right? So if you do that, you group the keys together, then you can use this to improvise, thinking about the song like multiple easy songs put together. What I mean by that? I mean that when we have, you just think 1, you just think A flat major and you solo in A major, and that works perfectly. Then you do the same thing for the C. And then you do the same thing for the E flat. When we are here, right? It always works. And then you do the same thing for the G, then you do the same thing for the E, and then you do the same thing when you go back again to the A flat. So actually, the only thing that we really need to play very clearly are these 3 chords that are outside of the normal major world. One is the C7, flat 9, flat 13 that we have to go to the F minor, but actually it's not that far away. You can just think about an A flat major, but with an E. So what is this scale? That comes from the harmonic minor world. We are playing F harmonic minor, or the 5th degree of F harmonic minor. So basically, we have the same notes as an A flat major, but we don't have an E flat, we have an E. Everything else is the same. So you just move this one note there. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And now, the other one that is difficult is the D flat minor 6 or minor major, that you can also play it like that. And so this, we have 2 different things that we can do. We can see it as a Dorian scale if we play it minor 6. So we can We can use we can see it actually as a 2 of B, or you can play it as a D flat melodic minor. And maybe this is a little more difficult. I don't know if you want to do that. Then it would sound like this. Nice sound, right? Then it goes to the key we said, and then we have this diminished chord. Now this B diminished doesn't make sense in A flat major. So the easiest thing you can do is just to see the arpeggio of the diminished chord. So we really need to play this diminished chord. And then you are back in the key. So basically, what you really need to check out are 3 chords, and the rest is just a major scale, another major scale, another major scale. So that's the quickest strategy I know to improvise very fast over complex chord changes, over tunes that have multiple keys and different movements and don't stay just in one key. All right, now that you know the trick, let me demonstrate it to you. I'm gonna play as simply as possible. So no chromatism, no arpeggios, no bebop language, nothing at all. Just what I just explained to you. So major scales always, except for these 3 chords that we really need to play. So So you heard there was no bebop in these lines. It doesn't really sound like jazz already, so to speak, but it already sounds good. So that was the goal of this lesson. Welcome to today's lesson. Since some of you asked about a follow-up lesson about the previous topic, which was how to master jazz chord changes fast, I prepared this new video, and this is a follow-up. So if you didn't watch the previous lesson, I strongly suggest to watch that first, be sure that you understand this, and then you can watch this one, because I'm gonna build up on where I left off last week. So the idea of last week was to be able to play over changes pretty quickly. So of course, like every quick strategy, it's not precise enough, because the problem with that strategy is that it works very well if you need to be quick, but it doesn't really show to the listener all the changes, all the chords in your piece. So with that strategy from today's lesson, you're going to be able to really spell out all the chords of your progression. So let's jump right in, and I'd like to show you a very good exercise that Shai Maestro explained to me in order to not have a too long progression like a jazz standard. I would, once again, I didn't do it for a while, maybe take a song of mine, and I'm going to show you the chord progression. It's pretty easy to understand. It's F minor 7 to E flat major to D flat major. Then we have in the same bar A flat major to G7 to C minor 7 to B major 7 to E flat major D half diminished and E7. Of course, this is just one example. You can take whatever tune you want, or you can take a pop song with 4 chords. The idea is to have something to practice that. And so the goal of this exercise is to, if you are a guitarist, to forget about your positions, or if you're not a guitar player, to forget about playing just in one octave or staying in the same range. But the idea is all to use the whole range of your instrument and to play just the arpeggios of every single chord, starting from the lowest note to the highest possible note and back, without interrupting your line while the chord progression goes on. So let me demonstrate it to you. We said the first chord is an F minor. Now, first step, just triads. We're not gonna play the 7th, we just play triads. And we do 1, 2, 3, 4, just quarter note. Then it would be the next bar, right? And at this point, we don't go to the root of the next chord. We don't want to sound like that, and that's not gonna help our lines in the solo. We want to be able to recognize where the next chord note is. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. We move on and we go to the third of the E flat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then next chord is D flat on the 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we have 2 chords in one bar. So we have A, and we can go up here, right? That would be the highest possible note in the progression. And now we can go back. So 1, 2, and then 3, 4. This is the G7, because we are in one bar and we have 2 chords. Then we have the C. 1, 2, 3, 4, C minor. Then B flat major. 1, 2, 3, 4, A flat. Now lowest possible note in the harmony. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we have to play the half diminished, so we're gonna play the 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the E7. And we are back. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now the D. So again with the 7. 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and back. So you see, I never interrupt the line, I never change direction just because the harmony changes. And this is gonna help you develop lines in the chord changes. Now, the third step is same thing, but with the 7th. Now, I'm not gonna talk it through, I'm just gonna show it to you so that you can hear the chord progression without me talking over it. So once again, but with 4 notes per chord. And so on. So that was one chorus. Now, this is difficult. Take your time, do it slow, do even slower than that. Take your piece or a very simple chord progression and start doing that. And at the beginning, you're really going to be looking for the notes and not finding them. But that's exactly the exercise. That's why it's so important and so effective. Now, when you do the exercise and it starts to work, of course, then you can break free from these rules and try to integrate it into your improvisation. So now let me just improvise freely over the chord progression, but you're gonna see I'm gonna try to integrate the triads and the 7th, of course, into the improvisation, and you're gonna see how it works then. And now, maybe this technique is even more powerful without the comping, because check that out. You're gonna hear the whole harmony now that you know it. You're gonna hear the whole harmony even if there is no comping. So 3, 4. You see, you can really hear the progression, and it's just me playing lines, no chords. So that demonstration should make it pretty clear that you can really outline all the changes in your lines if you do the right exercise. Today I'm going to show you the easiest way to improve your solos using approach notes. Now this lesson is really for everyone, so stay until the end because you're going to change your playing in just 5 minutes. So let's start right away and let me show you what inspired me to do this lesson. I realized I never talked about this very, very important topic, but I actually practiced it quite a lot, and it comes organically out in my solos, and I've never thought about it. But I was rewatching the videos of our show last Saturday with my band Nova in Munich, and I did something during the solo that I want to show you, and it's this part here. It's coming. Now, you noticed? I did this phrase. And what is that actually? This is just a double approach, right? Chromatic from below and diatonic from above. And I would like to show you how to practice approaches so that you can also blend these kind of phrases into your solos. So let's start with the very, very first step, which is, let's take an arpeggio. In that case, if we want to stick to this song, it was a G minor triad arpeggio, nothing else. So first thing you need to do is you need to see the chord notes, right? So let's take, for example, G minor, right? So 1, minor third, 5. That's it already. So that's just one way, right? You can do, or you can do, etc., as you wish. And now the first exercise to practice approach notes would be to play a chromatic approach from below, and our goal note, that's very important with approaches, you always have a goal note, and our goal is the note of the chord, of course. And we think about, we think like that rhythmically. The approach note is on the end, and the goal note, so the chord note, is on the downbeat. So we have and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and so on, right? So you can practice it like that. Always on the offbeat is the approach note, and on the downbeat is the goal note. Now, we can do the same thing, of course, but chromatically from above. And this one is a little more dissonant, so be careful when you want to use it, but it's like that, same thing. Oh, sorry. So same exercise the other way around. And of course, try to find different paths so that you really see the G minor arpeggio all over the fretboard, and that you can then do the approach note. All right, now let's spice it up a bit and let's do a double approach. So we take the same idea, chromatic from below, but we do diatonic from above. And so this is almost what I was doing during the improvisation. But the exercise goes like this. We do, so that means that we have chromatic note from below, starting on the downbeat. On the offbeat, we have the diatonic note, and we land on the downbeat again on the goal note. So we have ba-di-da. And here, be careful. Diatonic doesn't necessarily mean a whole tone, right? Here we are in G minor, natural minor, so we have the flat 6. So we already have a half step. So we have so this is another example. Of course, you can also do it the other way around. You start with the diatonic approach from above and chromatic from below. So we can do ba da da dee da da. For example. And of course also going back. Same thing. All right, and now let's make it even a little more interesting, and we can do chromatic from below and double chromatic from above. So we do, and here with the 6, we cannot do that if we want to keep it natural minor and not doing that, because that would be Dorian, but we want to stay with the flat 6, so we do the other way around. So we do from below, chromatic from above. Same thing for the minor third, and then we turn it around for the 5th, and then it starts again. You see, that's already pretty interesting. It's already bebop almost. Pretty interesting, huh? Or we can also do something else that is very interesting. So this one is a little more complicated because we have the enclosure. And the enclosure is when we are around the goal note chromatically. So this one is a little more complicated. So make sure to really learn the others first and then do this one. Oops. And also going back. This is, by the way, this is very important. Practice it also going back, because then you'll see that maybe you don't find the path back to where you started, because it's different to think about it going upwards and going backwards, although you are doing the same thing. And also maybe try to find another way to go back so that you really practice to see the notes on the fretboard. And then, finally, what I actually did in the solo, it was kind of an embellishment of this G minor arpeggio, but working with the approach notes. And I did. So what is that? I start with the goal note actually, but then I work around it. That's it. So, as promised, very quick and very effective. Do this, try to apply it also over changes. So this was an example with one chord. But of course, you can take a standard and try to do it like that, even just with triads, right? And the second step could be to add the seventh, but it's the same thing. So if I add the seventh now with the G minor, it becomes a G minor 7, and it's really almost the same thing. It's not much more complicated. And it's, if we go back to the original, so we have also the F. So we have like a chromatism at the end, for example. Or of course, like, you see? And then you already have way more tools that you can use for your improvisations. Thanks for watching the lessons. Thank you for checking out the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And of course, as usual, you'll find the PDF of this lesson with the link in the description. So go check it out. It's completely free. And let me know what you think and if you have questions. See you for the next lesson.